though it has put me in a lot of sticky situations, my favorite thing to do, hands down, is duck hunting. The most terrifying situation I've ever been in is when me and 3 friends forgot to check the boat for gas before a hunt. After the hunt, we were stranded and we had to walk across 3 miles of marsh, falling in every other step, and swimming across freezing cold canals to make it back to the camp during the middle of December. I can honestly say now that I've been in a near-death experience. All of us here have some kind of hobby that we are very interested in and passionate about that has a technical side that requires planning and thinking, and others just don't understand that. Ever since I was old enough to hold a shotgun, I have been duck hunting. Part of duck hunting is building and positioning blinds to give you the best possible chance to shoot ducks. I can honestly say, from learning from my own mistakes and taking advice from others, I now know how to build the perfect duck blind. Building a duck blind is a simple, short process that is very effective if done right, but can be a huge waste of time if the right details are not taken into account. Today I will teach you how to build a duck blind, but first how to position the duck blind, then how to build it, and third, the different types of blinds. Now that we know what we're doing, let me begin by showing you how to position a duck blind. When deciding where to build a duck blind, the most important aspect is duck population. When you're figuring out what pond to build it in, you need to make sure ducks even inhabit that pond or it's pointless. And ducks land according to the wind, Greenland magazine. So on a south wind, they will be in a different area of the pond than on a west wind. They always land facing towards the wind. So you want the wind hitting you from the back when you're in the blind. This is very important because the easiest time to shoot a duck is when they are cupped up, which is the body position right before the duck lands. You don't want to shoot the duck when it's on the water because it's poor sportsmanship. Since you will most likely have more than one person in the blind at a time, you want the ducks to land right in front of the blind so everybody has a shot. Water levels in the marsh are determined on the wind. So if on a north wind there's no water in the pond, and on a south wind there's the most water in a pond, means you will want to build your blind assuming there's a south wind. So you build your blind on the south bank of the pond. So the wind is hitting you from the back and the ducks are landing right in front of the blind. It is better not to build the blind in the middle of the pond because it sticks out like a sore thumb and ducks won't want to land in that area. Now that we have covered positioning the blind, I will now talk about how to build a blind. To build a duck blind in South Louisiana marsh, you need a solid flat surface that you will use to stand on during the hunt. You don't want to stand on the marsh because it's very uneven and you need to be balanced when firing a shotgun for safety for yourself and safety for others in the blind. A wooden pallet is most commonly used. You also need wood, such as 2x4s, to build a barrier around the blind, which you apply your brush, camouflage cover, around MissouriOutback.com. You also need this wooden barrier to lean your shotgun on. You don't want your gun on the ground because you need to be quick in grabbing your gun for ducks that surprise you. You want 4 wooden posts going up and down nailed into the corners of the wooden pallet, and 4 wooden posts going across nailed to the posts that are going up and down to create the barrier. The height of the blind should go up to your chest, tall enough so that you can see, tall enough so you're hidden sitting down, but short enough so you can see when you're standing up. Benches are optional because most people use a shell bucket, what you use to put your shells and snacks in when hunting. Use that to sit on. You also want your blind to be just big enough for the amount of hunters in the blind. The common amount of hunters through blind is 2 to 4. If the blind is too big, people tend to sit further apart. And this is what causes, and this is a factor in the 8 hunting-related deaths a year, GeorgiaWildlife.com. Because when you're sitting further apart and you're swinging trying to shoot a duck, you can blow your friend's head out. If the blind is smaller and you're sitting closer together, and you're swinging a gun, then you can't get in the fire range. You've done it with a person before, you can shoot them. That's why you want to sit closer together. The final aspect of a duck blind is the brush, camouflage cover. You want your brush for your blind you want to brush your blind as much as possible using natural cover. You want the blind brush to be the same as its surroundings. If the marsh around your blind has rosa patches all around it, you want to brush your blind with rosa patches. You cut as much rosa as it takes to give a thick surrounding around the wooden barrier. You do not want to be able to see into the blind at all. And you also want to have cover over the top of the blind so the ducks can't see when they're flying over. You want your blind to look as natural as possible so the ducks don't spook. You never want your blind to look square, because ducks can notice that it's not natural, it's square, they won't go away in that area. You also do not want to tamper with the surroundings around the blind too much. Like, if you're in the blind and there's a tree next to it, you don't want to cut it down. You want it to look as natural as possible. Ducks don't are. Ducks like a completely natural looking area. Now that I have talked about how to build a common southeastern duck blind, I will now discuss the different types of blinds. A boat blind, which is another take on an effective duck blind, is even simpler than a wooden pallet blind. You do not need a structure to stand on because you hunt out the boat, and many boat blinds are located in the middle of a pond, which is kind of a problem because ducks don't like that. Another type of blind used in Louisiana is a pit blind. These blinds can't be used in the marsh because they are built into the ground with fluctuating water levels in the marsh. The blinds can flood. And a pit blind is used in rice fields. To sum things up, I'll recap on the things that I taught you about duck blinds. I taught you how to position a duck blind, how to build a duck blind, and the different types of duck blinds. Now that I've given you the duck blind 101, remember, for whatever interests you, the most important thing is to be passionate and love what you do. Are there any questions?
So, considering the materials, I suggest you use the structures are meant to be temporary, right? They're not meant to last season after season.
Well, I mean, you want it to last through the season, and then
Right.
the next season you would have to rebrush the blind.
So
They'd fall apart, you know.
right. So the materials themselves aren't meant to stay together.
Well, it's natural. Like, you cut it down, and then
Right.
the next season you want to rebrush it.
Right.
Explain for the uninitiated the term rebrush.
Like, when you brush a blind, you know, you cut the natural things in the marsh to cover the blind so the ducks can't see you when you're in the blind. And then you want that to last all season. The next season, the brush would be all messed up and torn down, so you'd have to rebrush it again and keep doing that, whenever necessary.
And the natural themes in the marsh are?
We usually use rosa, which is kind of like a tall, skinny bush that's like real easy to cut, and it's kind of sharp at the bottom, so when you cut it and then you're in the blind, it's real easy to stick back into the ground because the bottoms are sharp, and it's tall too. Yes?
Okay, what if you turn on the boat, like how you say?
Well, in a boat blind, they're built in the middle of the pond, so first you would have to have the wooden barrier in which that would, stick into the mud, and then you would stick the rosa around that, and then you just drive your boat into that.
So it's not actually on the boat?
No. I mean, there's some boats that come with that, but that's like not good enough. That's not good enough for us to really have it. Yes,
Do you eat the duck?
of course.
Thank you. I'm just, with my